You don't go to school, you can't be educated.
New details about the 16 Cider's children and the paper trail that suggests someone was searching for them long before they were ever found.
So when we're talking reading and writing and education, we're talking a whole nother level of expectations here.
I have the explosive records that reveal this story began.
You don't go to school, you can't be educated. That single line delivered flatly is now part of the public record. A statement of fact about 16 children found inside one house in Ohio.
Long before we thought it did. Plus, the big move made by the judge to stop people from talking about the case. I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix.
But the question isn't whether the children were educated. The question is why nobody acted when the paperwork already proved they had vanished. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Trial&Crime. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence.
We have a lot to discuss with the Cider's case out of Ohio. A lot. We've uncovered some new details, and the judge has actually signed a gag order, preventing the people involved in the case on the prosecution side or the defense from talking about it. But first of all, I've been telling you that Children's Services in one Ohio county had been in touch with members of the Cider's family.
Picture a truancy complaint sitting in a county courthouse in October 2021, filed, stamped, and then set aside not because it was resolved, but because the parents couldn't be found. The children were already gone. The system had already noticed. The paperwork already knew.
Well, now we have documents showing there was not only concern by Children's Services about the Cider children, but also grave concern on the part of the school district where the Cider's children were supposed to attend school.
The narrative most people heard began 2 weeks ago when deputies in Vinton County, Ohio, executed a search warrant at a home on Omar Street. But court records show the warning signs started years earlier, in a different county, in a different school district, on a different piece of paper. The paperwork already knew.
And that concern goes back years. It's been exactly 2 weeks since deputies in Vinton County, Ohio, went to the home where Elizabeth Cider and her husband, Gary Cider Jr., were living. They went there to execute a search warrant as they investigated a crime. What deputies and Ohio BCI agents found was not what they were expecting. They said they found 16 children ranging in age from 1.5 to 18 inside the home on Omar Street. The children, according to the state attorney general, were not.
On that recent day, law enforcement and Ohio BCI agents entered the residence expecting to investigate one thing. What they found was 16 children, ages 1.5 to 18, living in conditions the sheriff would later describe in terms most people reserve for livestock. Most of our livestock was kept in better conditions than the children. That is a direct quote from the county sheriff.
In good shape.
Through that right now, some of these children couldn't even speak. Yeah, so, I mean, we're talking, this is very, it was terrible. I mean, it looked like almost feral animals. It was terrible. So when we're talking reading and writing and education, we're talking a whole nother level of expectation.
The state attorney general stated that some of the children could not speak. One official described their appearance as almost feral. But then came the sentence that reframed the entire case. When we're talking reading and writing and education, we're talking a whole another level of expectations. An 18-year-old could not spell.
It's hard enough just to get these kids to be able to the 18-year-old can't spell it.
Since that press conference, we've learned that some of the older children have social media accounts, but just how much they can spell and write remains a question.
That detail, an adult who cannot spell, is not a footnote. It is a measurement. It tells you how long the system had been failing before anyone forced the door open.
Thankfully, the children have all been released from the hospital. They're with foster families. The house on Omar Street remains taped off by crime scene tape. The conditions inside have been described as something you wouldn't even see in a third world country. Videos circulating online show the filth in the house. The children were kept in a 12 by 12 room, according to the sheriff.
As I was saying, most of our livestock.
The children have since been released from the hospital and placed with foster families. The house remains behind crime scene tape. Videos of the interior circulated online showing what officials described as a 12 by 12 room where the children spent most of the last 4 years.
Was kept in better conditions than the children. It was extremely high presence, I'm sure, of bacterial and human feces It's just a disgusting scene.
Can I ask the both of you, what did you feel like long before there? Not necessarily what it looked like or the description, but what was going through your mind?
So it was disgusting even where the kids weren't.
4 family members now face 16 counts of child endangering Gary Cider Sr., Christina Cider, their son Gary Jr., and his wife Elizabeth. All have pleaded not guilty. But here is where the story shifts from a criminal case into a structural failure.
I would think it's typical. Most law enforcement have experience with homes in a similar fashion. A large number of people, though, the children were kept in a roughly 12 by 12 area that it seems like is where they've spent the most of the last 4 years, and that's what it looks like.
Long before the search warrant, there was a paper trail. In October 2021, the Gallia County Juvenile Court received truancy complaints involving 6 of the Cider children. The family lived on Honeysuckle Drive in Cheshire, Ohio. The complaints stated that Gary and Elizabeth had failed to cause said child to attend school as required by law.
In a weird way, you're hit with two emotions. There is joy when we realize that we're about to change 16 lives for the better. But you're also, it's hard.
4 Cider's family members, Gary Cider Sr. and his wife Christina Lynn Ciders, along with their son.
The children had been absent without legitimate excuse for the entire 2021-2022 academic year, more than 72 hours, which made them habitually truant under Ohio law. That's not a minor administrative flag. That's a statutory threshold that triggers legal obligation.
Gary Jr. and his wife Elizabeth Ciders face 16 counts of child endangering. They've all pleaded not guilty to the charges. Gary Sr. has been released from jail and placed in a hospital after he fell and a more serious condition was discovered. The last we heard, he was still in the hospital. The Vinton County prosecutor says the children were found in the house, but that the family was not from Vinton County.
I want to stress that our focus right now is on the safety of the children. These kids are being evaluated medically, and we're trying to get them placed, and that is our primary concern right at this point. I also want to stress this is not conduct that is acceptable in Vinton County. These individuals were not from Vinton County.
But then the record delivers the line that should stop every viewer cold. In January 2022, the court terminated the complaints. The reason? Elizabeth Cider is unable to be served and the whereabouts of Elizabeth Cider are unknown to the court. The same order was issued for Gary Jr. The family had simply disappeared from the system's reach.
This is not appropriate and certainly is not reflective of the Vinton County values.
Now, I've told you that the family was originally from Gallia County. Gallia is the county south of Vinton, and records show the family moved to Vinton County about 4 years ago. And there was likely a reason for that move. The puzzle pieces here, they're fitting together. They are painting the picture. It's becoming very clear. I've been telling you for the last week. The Children's Services had been looking into the Ciders family.
The school district had registered the children. The children never attended, not for a single day, according to the record. So the question becomes unavoidable. How does a family with 6 school-age children vanish from one county's jurisdiction and resurface 4 years later with 16 children in a 12 by 12 room in another county? Nobody asked. Nobody answered.
That look at them started in Gallia County back in 2021. The juvenile court in Gallia County went looking for the Ciders after the older children didn't show up for school. The Ciders' home at that time was on Honeysuckle Drive in Cheshire. That's the address listed on the court documents. These records show that in October 2021, complaints had been filed against Elizabeth and Gary Ciders.
Records show Elizabeth Cider held a P.O. box in Hamden, Ohio as early as 2020. The family is listed as living on Main Street in Hamden before moving a short distance to Omar Street. The movement was not invisible. It was just never connected.
Because 6 of their children were considered truant, meaning they were chronically absent from school. The complaint states the child's name, which we have blacked out. Then it states that Gary and Elizabeth have failed to cause said child to attend some school or class as required by law. The child has been absent from school without legitimate excuse for the entire 2021-2022 academic year to present an amount in excess of 72 hours for the school year, and as such is thereby a habitual truant. Now, this truancy
Former Franklin County Prosecutor Ron O'Brien, in reviewing these records, noted that truancy is often the first contact a child has with the system. A red flag that, if followed, can prevent far worse outcomes. You have to take a proactive effort, he said. The Gallia County School District took that step, then the trail went cold.
Complaint is for 6 of the 16 Cider's children. Of course, some weren't even born yet. The oldest at that time would have been 13. In the state of Ohio, it's illegal to not send your children to school. Parents have a duty and an obligation to ensure their child is in school. The statute states that parents whose children are determined to be habitually truant and do not get their kids to school can face fines or even child neglect charges.
The Ohio Controlling Board has now approved $1 million in emergency funding to help care for these children. A state senator called the situation unprecedented. A child off the radar is terrible enough. 16 kids in one family and one household to be off the radar is something I've just not seen.
Eventually, the complaints were terminated in January of 2022. A document states the court finds that Elizabeth Ciders is unable to be served and the whereabouts of Elizabeth Ciders are unknown to the court. Therefore, it is hereby the order of the court that the above matter be terminated until the availability of Elizabeth Ciders. The same document was filed for Gary Jr., the named father of the children. The court couldn't find Gary and Elizabeth.
So here is the thriller question that turns this from a local crime story into a national accountability test. If a school district files legal paperwork showing 6 children have completely vanished from the education system, and that paperwork is stamped, docketed, and then closed because the parents can't be found, what other families are currently in that same blind spot right now?
Or the children. The children had to have been registered for school, but the school district said they never attended, not even for a day, it would seem. That raises the question, had the Ciders already moved in 2021? Were they still in Gallia County or had they already moved to Vinton County? I have found records showing that Elizabeth had a P.O. box in Hamden as early as 2020, and she and her family are listed as living in this house on Main Street in Hamden before they moved a short distance away to the home on Omar Street.
A judge has now signed a gag order preventing the sheriff, the attorney general, and the prosecutor from making further public statements about the case. The defense argued that pretrial comments endangered the defendant's right to a fair trial. The order means the public record, the documents already filed, are now the only window into what happened. And those documents are still there, waiting to be read.
People have been drawn to that house. I met several there over the weekend. They don't understand how something like this could happen.
Just curious about this whole situation, because how can a whole family live like that and no one know it? I wanted to see, like, how close were neighbors. Usually in small towns, neighbors are friendly with each other, you know, so how would you not know what's going on?
You live a couple counties away, right?
Yes, in Lawrence County.
So you live in Lawrence County. You came out.
So here is your call to research. Go to the Gallia County Juvenile Court Public Records portal and search for the truancy complaints filed in October 2021 against Elizabeth and Gary Cider. Read the termination order for yourself. Then answer this question in the comments: at what exact point in the timeline did the system have enough information to act? And who decided to stop looking?
Out here to see what was going on. You know, this is out in the southeastern part of the state. Is it common for people to live like this with 16 children, filth, that you are aware of?
If this breakdown of public records and legal filings helped you see this case clearly, like this video, share it, subscribe to Trial&Crime, and turn on notifications. We don't just report the story, we follow the evidence. The paperwork already knew.